Not enough sleep. There's literally hay everywhere. We slung a couple hundred bales yesterday in the heat, and I still have a couple more trailer loads to get done today. Then we have to leave to go out to the coast. So right now we've got a 3-month-old baby here, a 1.5-year-old, and I think a 6-year-old, 19-year-old, a 16-year-old, another couple, and all the animals in the farm. So it's a full house. Chaos on the go. Now, what did I do yesterday? I went down to the river and I pulled at the end of the day last evening, I went down solo to that big hole in the river, and I pulled the 3 GoPros off the bottom of the river. One of them nailed it, and I put the whole thing on the How to Hunt channel for anybody who might be stuck inside or whatever wants to watch something that'll help their mind go somewhere else for a peaceful moment. It's up there. It's pretty cool. And sporadically through the video, all of a sudden a big wave of sockeye salmon come up and literally swarm the camera. It is so cool if you're into that thing, which I am. I know filming of underwater animals and fish and game has been done a million times over, but I haven't done it. I'm still trying to perfect it. What am I trying to perfect? I'm not sure yet. It's just fun. It's exciting for me to be passionate about fishing game and to be able to film what's going on down there, which I've never seen myself before, where I am, not on the TV tube. But anyway, side note, that particular area, there isn't a doubt, I mean 110% these beings are there, have been there. When they're not there, I don't know. Are they there all the time? I haven't a clue. But I'm going to share with you some of my own personal detective work as I try to figure out what's going on down there. So you guys, the audience here, are who originally alerted me to the fact that I was getting messed with down there when something got thrown at me from the bushes right beside me. That was pretty bizarre. I didn't even hear it. But for me, you got the noise of the river behind me. My ears are ringing non-stop, so I almost had my head blown off 3 times, I think, from rifles, from hunters. And I just didn't pick up on it. And a lot of the times, I don't feel the pressure. I just don't feel anything. I do to an extent. I guess maybe I'm just used to it. Because each time I go down there, I always say, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Don't freak me out. I'm not into you guys. And I was setting trail cameras up the other evening for the bears, and I was just in the very, very back of this one particular spot where it's thick brush all the way through. Loads of sightings of these beings just up the river. Not even a quarter mile away, and it was just your classic setup to have something stand up and look at me out of the thickness ahead of me. And I was feeling the EBGBs, and I said out loud, just leave me alone, right? But getting back to my detective work. Now, you guys have seen all the bears. I've shared all the bears that ring that spot. It was non-stop, one after the other, right? Last year, a year ago. Now, there's just as many fish in the river, but what I'm getting at is the bottom of the deepest hole, there's no current down there. It's deep. It's probably 20, it's got to be at least 20 feet deep anyway. And I believe I filmed them earlier with the GoPro when I was swimming. But I looked down there and the dead sockeye were stacked up down there. Stacked! 2 or 3 different piles. I'll bet you there is at least, I don't know, 100 fish laying there dead. Okay? Now, since that time I saw those fish at the bottom, the current is getting weaker and weaker, and there hasn't been rains or floods to clean them out. Well, I swam there last evening getting my GoPros. There's only 2. There's 2 dead salmon down there, and they're absolutely getting gang-piled by crayfish. Where'd those fish go? They're not all over the shore. They didn't get washed away. The river did not rise. The current did not get strong enough to blow them out of there. It just didn't. They're not sprinkled all over the river down below for a quarter, half a mile, and the birds aren't feeding on them as they wash up on shore for potentially getting swept out of there. So that's a little odd for me because I'm always taking note what's going on. So we've got over 100 dead salmon at the bottom of that hole, not enough current to blow them out. No bears at all so far. Things getting thrown at me, voices being recorded from behind me in those bushes. Something odd possibly went up the river. Maybe it was a bird, maybe it wasn't. I've had some people do analysis on it, said there's no way it was a bird. Whatever, I'm not really worked up about it. But one note I will share with you guys of my past knowledge, when I was looking for these beings intentionally in the coastal mountains of British Columbia, and I made a friend from the Mount Currie First Nations band. He worked for the band, and he came up and talked to me, matter of fact, about these beings. He'd seen them 3 times himself, and he said to me, I just said, oh, well, when he came up to me, I had a camera, and he says, what are you doing, man? I'm like, oh, well, I was actually looking for Sasquatch tracks up here. And he goes, oh, no, they're down at the river. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I know, they're down at the river. There's early spring salmon down there, and they're down there. Right now, that's where they are. He says, there's a pair of them and a young one down there right now. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. And that's who he also said, you know, we don't really talk to the non-Aboriginal people about this topic because most people laugh at it. He says, I don't get it. Excuse me, and I said, I don't get it either. What he said was the 2 larger set of prints would go in. You could see where he said they went into the river and out of the river, and into the river and out of the river, and the younger set, the smaller set of prints, stayed out of the river. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with rotting spawned salmon on the shoreline, but they turn into this yellow mush. It's like, it's just nasty. You keep your dog on a leash because they'll go rolling it, and it hums. It stinks. It's disgusting. And he said that they were even taking those ones. How amazing is that? So, he told me flat out that you could see where the tracks went over, where that rotting, mulched, dead spawned out salmon was laying, and where the tracks went to it, and that fish was gone from that spot where it was laying there decomposing. Okay? So what does that tell me as I try to figure out that one little puzzle? It tells me that yes, these beings will eat that shit. They don't care, it's protein obviously. However or whenever they need to eat here, meaning on the face of this planet. And so I always remembered that one little note. It was very interesting to me. Excuse me. So now here we are today out back 40, where I've had things thrown at me, noise in the background. Numerous people, including my First Nations hero ladies, inform me that there's been sightings down there forever. And basically my home is circumnavigated by sightings within everywhere from a 10-minute walk to miles out. It's just the way it is what it is. But it is odd for me to witness what's going on down there right now is the fact that there is no bears there. All those dead salmon are gone. The river hasn't flooded up to blow them out of the bottom of that riverbed. I'm sure as hell there's enough crayfish down there to make 100 salmon disappear like that, including the spines. Interesting, right? Pretty weird. So anyway, that's my little report from here. What else? I received some very, very interesting emails yesterday, as well from our another one of our superhero contacts, who I now we're going to actually do a phone call. Should be interesting. Of course, I'll see if he wants me to record that phone call, and I'll edit out some of the private parts later. I think that would be very, very interesting, and then we can hear a first-hand account of what happened when he saw that being, lost his memory, woke up closer to the vehicle with his clothes rearranged, missing a sock with his shoes on or something, and then when he got home, his cell phone was pinging and rapid firing, welcome to Denmark, welcome to Italy, welcome to France, welcome to Canada. All around the globe, he was getting those texts that we get when we land or come into the airspace of another country. 32 or 36 countries text him. What he did share with me yesterday, because I was asking him if he had spoke with the other scientists who have all the DNA from these beings, etc., and have studied them probably more intimately than the majority of the people on the face of the planet that I've come across or we have come across to date. And I asked him if they had mentioned to him what they felt might have happened to him with his experience. And they said that it sounds like it was definitely either going into a portal or coming out of a portal when he saw it. He obviously was included in that ride, and they have a feeling that he was whisked literally around the globe in the portal, and he shouldn't have survived it. And that is what they come up with so far. And they're pretty bad about that, but they're all amazed that it didn't kill him or he didn't disappear outright. But now here he is. Turns out now he's battling the big C, right? Which sucks ass. But that's what they figure is what happened to him. How alarming in a way is that? Because I don't know yet. I think these people have been studying portals. I have a feeling they're going to share a whole pile of knowledge of what they have to date about them with us. And what I want to know is do they show up randomly? How can we avoid them? Can we avoid them? Should we be that worried about them, or should we just go about living life and it's like getting hit by a bolt of lightning? It's up in the sky, there's nothing you can do about it. It shows up, right? What else can I mention about that? And the quick volley was something that was very interesting was in their conversation, which was forwarded to me, they talked about the mention of them supplying me with a Geiger counter for radiation, and the one main scientist said, toss that idea, get him an electromagnetic, I forget right now the words, indicator, because those will tell you if you are nearby in the presence of any of these beings. How interesting is that? Now obviously I'm not relaying that word for word, but I will once I get the full package together. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to read, and it's basically what I'm doing is I'm going to read you guys a very detailed, very informative article, okay? But I haven't got the complete article put together to make sense and to be able to deliver smoothly to you yet. That's what I'm doing. There's no tease, there's no frickin' clickbait shit going on, there's no nothing. One of my faults is I just share with you guys what I get when I get it. I don't give a shit. I got no secrets. And like hell, I'd waste my time trying to drag people along or lead people along, right? If that was the case, I would have been selling you pay-per-views for these videos a long time ago. Right? Figure it out. All you pinheads that whose brains don't really fire all that well, and you insist on coming here and getting angry at me anyway. So, that should be my morning ramble so far, before I get into sharing some voices. While I wait for this thick misting fog to dissipate, the sun come out, and to dry off all those bales, so I can get them in today. So I've got a little window here, and it's very peaceful in here instead of inside the house where there's chaos going on right now. Anyway, let's get into some voices and get these people heard. Okay, here we go. Oh, so the big question, when are you going to share the information with us? Well, I just told you my schedule. I got to get this done. Hay, pack, drive 2 hours on the logging road, beat the crap out of myself and other people until I think Monday or Tuesday. During that time away, I am going to be contacting one of our favorite contacts to line up a time for me to phone around the world to where he is and line up that phone call conversation and get into it. That'll be very interesting. So, and then at that time we'll decide if it's going to be more informative and easier for you to hear us speak about and share what we're going to share, or if it's going to be easier for me to get enough of what he is putting together to deliver to us. I've got enough, I think I've got enough now to freak you out, but I just would rather get a full, good, solid, I'm going to call it an article, to share with you guys and help make sense, as much sense as we can, out of what these scientists know. Alright? So, there. I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. I think I'm speaking clearly. Now, in the meantime, people need to be heard, which is very important. Now, this sounds like it's going to be interesting. Hope that camera stays on. Dying father shares Drummond Island event after showing your channel. How exciting is that? Hello Steve, you can share names freely with us. My name is Pablo, son of Chilo, pronounced Chilo. We live in Southwest Michigan. I'll do my best not to string the song. I'm by no means a great speaker, so apologies ahead of time. Me neither, man, but look where I am. You're doing fine. I have been following your channel for several years now and know damn well that our world governments have suppressed vital information as they tend their global sheep farm for the overseers. Nailed it. Phil Schneider, William Cooper gave their lives to tell us of the evil our world leaders have been in league with, and it is sickening. Agreed. Back to the subject at hand, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer just over 2 years ago. He's always been open-minded and has seen things in Mexico of different topics. I showed him your channel recently, and after patiently letting me show him several videos of yours, he looked at me and said that he had a frightening experience on Drummond Island when some good friends of the family invited him to go deer hunting with them. My father, bless his heart, is a nature-loving man who I think really just went to sit in the woods and take it all in. He wouldn't shoot a deer, but I can imagine him using the scope to observe them. He told me him and his 3 buddies split up to different areas. He found a U-shaped clearing with thick forest along the edge, so he positioned himself in what would be the bottom of the U, with his back immersed slightly into the woods so he could observe out into the clearing and the expanse beyond. He noted how the woods behind him were so thick that it would be impossible for anyone or even large animals to squeeze through. While he was nature gazing into the field, he said that the sound of something large walking far behind him in the thicket caught his attention. He said that at first he paid it no mind but instantly felt panicked and uneasy. He said he tried to imagine it was a moose or even possibly a bear, but what scared him the most was the fact that it sounded bipedal, was heading right in his direction and seemed to attempt to be walking slowly and calculated. Every time he looked behind him into the dense thicket, he could see nothing beyond a few yards, but the sound and footfall would stop, but was getting close fast. He said that the dead silence of the forest only made it easier to hear the footsteps and thicket quietly being pushed along. He told me he had never felt such dread and panic as it seemed to be bruiting effortlessly through the dense thicket right towards him. He told me he felt like he was being stalked by something large and bipedal. He's no dummy by far. He said he held his rifle with white knuckles and got the hell out of there because it was getting so close. And although he did not wait to see this thing, he knows himself that it was not a moose or a deer or a bear. There were no grunts, no growls, no snorts. Just something massive walking on 2 feet, traversing through the dense thicket like a knife through hot butter, right towards him. Except whatever it was would stand silent every time my father whipped around to look in the general direction, then resume making way the moment he turned forward again. The whole thing happened in about 15 minutes, but he told me the dead silence and feeling of terror while armed with a rifle made it feel like time had stopped. After hearing several of your videos, when he shared this with me, it was almost like he had never been more convinced that what he experienced was something our leaders do not prepare us for. He never went back, and now that I think about it, I feel like the experience ruined his desire to go out into nature. Steve, my father's a good man. He may no longer be here with us, but by the time you get this, but if you could send him a word of strength or anything, I know he would smile. Another wonderful human being who's fallen victim to Big Pharma. My heart goes out to everyone dealing with or who's lost someone to cancer, because this has torn our family to pieces, and there's nothing we can do except bear the pain. Thank you for letting me share this encounter, Steve. Thank you for sharing that with us, man. Chilo, if you're still with us, you watch this video, all the huge respect and well wishes go out to you from everyone here, without a doubt. Tens of thousands of people are hearing your name and wishing you well and thanking you for being brave and coming forward. And death's a shitty thing, man. Death's a shitty thing, but every single one of us is dying, right? And it's not over. This isn't the end of it. We're all going to carry on to the next adventure, 110%. I wish you well. I wish you well if you're still with us, and kick the shit out of that stupid cancer. But anyway, Chilo's experience has been shared by tens and tens of thousands of people. almost everybody gets spooked out to some degree sometime in lifetime. It's just the way it is. But until you experience that dread and terror, I think that it is something else. It's beyond what your average person experiences. It really leaves a lifelong imprint in your soul, and it prevents many, many people from going outside ever again or even going near a tree. And that's a fact. So for all you who haven't experienced it, think about it. To go out of your way to harbor that lifelong memory of terror and vividly remember every second of it. That wasn't just bumping into a rabbit that runs across the forest and thick bush and scaring you. It's something else, right? It's something else. And I don't think I've felt stalked, physically stalked yet. I've been followed by a grizzly bear. I had a grizzly bear follow me and a hunter up the mountain in the middle of the afternoon from camp in Willow. And we got off our horses and tied up and hiked down into the forest with this little patch I could see out across the valley to the sheep mountains. And then on the way back, that grizzly bear followed. He sat on us up there somewhere. I never sensed anything. And he followed us all the way back down to camp, and that's when he tried to make his move. And I don't know why he didn't kill me earlier. He had all day to do it anytime he felt like it. I do not know why he waited to try to do it at the cabin. I don't get it, but he lost. What I'm saying is I'm trying to remember the feeling of actually being stalked in all of my hikes. And I haven't felt stalked. I've felt threatened for sure. I felt very insecure and threatened. Especially the one time, bam, that just stands out is when I had those two beaten on trees. One above me up there, one above me up there, and I had to go underneath the other one on snowshoes on top of 4 feet of snow, 5 feet of snow to get to my snowmobile by myself, minus 20, minus 25. And that sucked. But I wasn't feeling stalked. It's just I couldn't have felt more vulnerable, especially because I knew exactly what was doing it, which made it suck even more. And I never went back there. I think I went back there once, and then the next time I went back there is when I took you guys there. That was where I used to have that big stand built in those huge ancient cedars, and they tore it down. 100% it was tore down. But anyway, I'm babbling. Let's get some more voices heard. Alright, so this is titled, A 40-Year-Old Puzzle Solved. You got my attention. Mark you as read. Dear Steve, I've been avidly watching your videos on YouTube for several months, and as much as I enjoy them, they have left me with a deep sense of unease. Please keep my name to yourself, as I already have a reputation of being a little odd. Don't we all? Excuse me. I'm a 71-year-old little English lady with a mental age of 35. Good for you. And have been on the most amazing journey of discovery for at least the last 55 years. I've hesitated in writing to tell you my story, as I have no proof that any of this happened, and that a fear of being laughed at as gullible or worse, being accused of lying, has until now stopped me. Your video posted today, 17th of May, entitled New Anticipated Information from Mr. Ash Ojibwe Elder, has finally prompted me to put fingers to keyboard and tell my story for the first time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm so happy that you found this relief. Can't wait to hear it. In 1981, my adventurous life found me living in Hollywood, Florida, and I was fortunate to be introduced to an ancient mystic. Somehow the conversation turned to Yeti and Bigfoot. Now, being a Brit, the creatures are not part of my cultural heritage, so I had little more than a passing interest in them. The old gentleman to whom I was speaking told me that there were Bigfoot living in the northwest of Florida, and that he would send one to me. I thought little more of this until a few days later, back in my comfortable condo in Coral Springs, I noticed a pungent smell coming from the living room, so I went to investigate. There in a corner was a huge, dark, but transparent shape hunched over to fit under the ceiling. Holy shit. I stood transfixed as the shape approached me. She greeted me by name and told me her name. Out of respect for her, I shall not give it here, and I'll refer to her as A. Slowly, she enveloped me in what I can only describe as a warm, loving embrace, and then the shadow slowly faded away, and I was left confused as to what had just happened, but feeling strangely elated. A couple weeks later, I met my old mystic friend, who greeted me with the words, "So, you have met A." unable to make sense of any of it. I filed it away in my memory with all the other inexplicable things that I have experienced and thought no more about it. 3 years later, I became a tree planter working for the large paper companies planting loblolly pine trees in most of the southern states. I'm afraid I can't recall whether it was in Georgia or Arkansas. But I suddenly found myself on an open hilltop. Unlike the usual lunar landscape of our usual tree planting sites, this was a grassy meadow and represented what planters call gravy, easy planting land. So I began furiously planting before the rest of the crew arrived. I became aware of a presence behind me. I turned around, and not 5 feet away from me was a small, dirty-looking old man. I am 4'11", and he was about a foot shorter than me. He was dressed in what looked like soft leather and was carrying a staff that was as tall as him and had a leather bag slung over his shoulder. I was fascinated by him as he looked friendly. I began to approach him. No sooner had I taken one step in his direction when an authoritative and familiar voice spoke in my head. Have nothing to do with him. Immediately I turned back to my planting and said over my shoulder to the small man, I'm too busy to talk, go away. It was then that I remembered whose voice it was, and I thought, is that you? Immediately in my head I heard musical laughter, and A's familiar voice saying, who else but me, my sister? Utterly perplexed, I continued on with my planting and never breathed a word of this encounter to anyone. No doubt. This encounter with what I now think was a Sabe left me completely conflicted with the nature of this creature who to so many instills utter dread, but to me has shown nothing but absolute love and kindness. I've not heard from A in many years, but I know she's still there. Besides, there is little danger here in England's green and pleasant land, so perhaps I don't need her protection anymore. I know my story stretches credibility, and I quite understand if you write me off as a crazy person, but I know what happened, and it is a memory that I treasure. Thank you so much for providing a platform and helping so many traumatized people gain a measure of peace. With love to you and yours, all the members of the club, no return. Did you say to use your name? I don't think you did. Please keep my name to yourself. Okay, lucky I didn't read your name. Now, who am I to call somebody else crazy who's seen something that's absolutely frickin' bizarre like you have, and how many other people have, right? I'm the guy online talking about Sasquatch, right? But I've seen them. It's not my fault, and I didn't ask for it, and you didn't ask for what you saw. And I've definitely got to the point where I am not scared of human beings. Far from it. And I'm glad that you just had the courage to share that with us. And I have a funny feeling that it's going to knee-jerk somebody else into sharing probably a similar story. Right? Without a doubt. I don't think I'm down on the a being making itself present inside your home. That's a little personal. That's a little much. That would make it really nerve-wracking to get up and go for a pee in the middle of the night. What an amazing encounter. Sounds like you've seen a lot of country in your lifetime. Good for you. Good for you. And good for you to come here and share like that. I'm sure it's going to help somebody. It's definitely going to knee-jerk somebody else into sharing something similar. Without a doubt. And I wish you all the best. What else do we got? Mark, this is Red. Michigan again. So much as goes down in Michigan. Right? Everywhere, really. A Michigan boy's story. Hello, Steve. I'm not sure if this reaches you well, and regardless, I'm uncertain if this could assist others or even myself, as it relates more to grays than Sabe. Please call me by my nickname, Chris. I don't want to go by my first name, as I'm just entering the greater professional world, as I'm going to trade school for electrician training program. I have a few other stories from myself and my family, including a recent one from my brother, who I'll mention as a relevant person later in the story, alongside a few from my friends. But this is the one that impacted me the most. Here are the details as best I remember them. To get to the point when I was around 12 or so, I was with a family vacationing at Gun Lake, Michigan. I don't remember how many days in, but I awoke around 2 or 3 a.m. feeling as though possessed by total fear of quite indescribable nature, while also suffering from the feeling I get from laughing gas, which I and much of my family are resistant to. The already present fear and fatigue of a laughing gas-like substance made the fear a degree of intensity I'd never felt, and only felt once more when I was almost blown up by a pyrotechnician last year. Anyways, after stewing in the fear and failing to awaken, my brother, who was asleep next to me, 3 creatures best described as greys, opened the window and slipped into the room, though I've since always referred to them as 3 bastards. The bastards seemed to have floated through the window in front of my brother and then walk as though they were on the moon, bouncing a little in the air as they walked. When they got to my brother, I felt an instant rage to an extent I have never felt before or since, to the point I almost regained my strength before they did their chore, I guess you can call it that, as it seemed to be long practiced, like an old opera or play performance. The bastards took some sort of metallic device shaped like a long pen or spike. It did not look to act like a syringe. They stabbed my brother on the chest right before I could get up and break their flimsy necks. I went to my side to get off the bed when I was stabbed in my left eye with a thinner object than the one used to my brother. When I awoke around 5 a.m., the pain felt like as though someone had taken a dull knife and sliced my eyeball open. Ironically, that eye, my left eye, is my dominant one now, and I also consistently awaken briefly every night at 3 a.m. I'm unsure what they did with me, although I now feel as though I cannot sleep when around others without fear of endangering them. I also now carry a knife, minimum at all times due to the encounter. On the part of my brothers, he's got bow. On the part of my brother, he's got bow effects we know of. Must be no effects we know of. He woke up with no pain that morning, though he had a slight mark on his chest for a few hours. Due to this experience, I now hold fear of the few things except for one: loss of control of myself and lack of arms, while my brother has no effects, no problems from the event. Godspeed, Steve. You and others need all the luck you can get, especially with the current events. If you want any more of my stories or the stories from my family and friends, just say the word and I'll send it ASAP. Let her rip. Get it out. I don't give a shit how crazy shit sounds at this point of the game. Get it out. Alright? No more being scared of each other. We've been programmed to be scared of each other since day one. We have been taught since day one what to think is crazy and impossible. And that's bullshit. From what I've learned for myself to this point of the game, anything delivered to us via mainstream news, the opposite is the truth. And that, so far, for me, holds to be 100% solid. So, you want to take that a little further, you go into the education system, and it would seem that what they mock or make fun of or try to classify as out there seems to today, to me, to be actual fact. Right? And people that I respect, people who are far more diligent than I and looking into other topics, they have warned me that the threat is coming from up there. Alright? And do I believe them? My gut instincts say, hell yes, I believe them. So, getting back to your experience, well, how many people does it take to relay that same experience before we go, oh shit, what's up? Right? We are dumb asses to not listen to our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors. Dumb asses. It doesn't matter how crazy it is. If we hear that same story from around the globe with the absolute similar details, descriptions, the whole 9 yards, and laugh at it, well, you're about as smart as a pickle. Right? And believe me, I would have been laughing at all this shit years back when I was growing up and as a kid. But not now, man. Not now. Quick note on the pineal gland. I'm on well water. I do not take in fluoride at all. Side note. I wonder if that has something to do with my mental stance today. I don't know. Maybe, right? Maybe. But anyway, thanks for that share, man. It took some guts. It took some guts to share it. I hope it doesn't happen again. And I do not care what anybody else feels or thinks. If you are going to slip into the bedroom of any human being, you deserve the ultimate penalty if it can be inflicted on your ass. That's just the way it goes with basically any species. Any species alive today. You intentionally slip into the bedroom of a human being, especially a human being's children's room, you deserve every single nasty, horrific thing that could possibly happen to you, as far as I'm concerned. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say politely is, I would shoot the shit out of them. I wouldn't care what or who it is. You slip into the kid's room at 3 in the morning, whatever it is, you are gonna be in a hole if it's possible, right? Side note, you just mentioned being awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been waking up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning for I don't know how long. Now, why? I don't know, but I have been. And then I eventually fall back asleep, but it's to the point now I wake up, I already know what time it is. It's either 2:30 or 3. That's what it is. Alright, here we go. Lost 7-year-old escorted out of the woods by a huge Sasquatch is the title of this one. Lost 7-year-old escorted out of the woods by a huge Sasquatch. May 11th, 2022. Hello, Steve. My name is Steve. I'm 58, and I am what is called a knower. I like to share my story with you and all those other knowers out there. I live in Arizona, and I'm a subscriber for 2 years or more. You're a part of my early morning routine, and I thank you now for doing what you do. Quick note on the subscriber thing, you guys. Lots of people are getting unsubscribed from this channel, only to find out later on they're not getting notifications or however it works. And I'll say it again, I don't do that. I can't unsubscribe anybody. It's not possible. If somebody alerts me to an absolute douchebag, I can go to their profile on YouTube, click on the little 3 dots, and I can block them. Gone from the channel. And you wouldn't believe how many, side note, you wouldn't believe we've had 2 or 3 absolute psychopaths that came here just to torment people and used you have to create a whole new email and then go on your Google and create a whole new Google account before you can go onto YouTube and start commenting again. And I swear at some of these nutcases I've deleted these same bastards probably 20 times each. It's amazing, but they're so loose up there. They use the same profile picture and handle. I think they finally stopped. So I haven't been alerted about them lately. Anyway, sorry about that. That's a quick mention about the subscriptions. Alright, you guys? You get unsubscribed. I can't do that. For some reason, YouTube does it to you. I'll get right into this. Here we go. This event happened in 69 or 70 in Northeast Ohio, 30 miles east of Cleveland, in a small town called Chardon. The experience lasted for over 3 hours, and I saw the savage creature very clearly 3 times in that 3-hour period. I was 6 or 7 years old, and it was Easter weekend. All my many neighborhood friends were all away for the holiday weekend. As usual, I was eager to get out and play outside. I dressed for the cold day that it was, maybe near 10 or 15 degrees, with about a foot of snow on the ground and a thick layer of crusty ice on top. Very noisy to walk on, and it was caused by melting and very strong cold front that passed through the night before. It was a very still but cold day with no wind at all. I soon found my way into the woods which surrounded the small neighborhood I lived in just outside of town. I found myself in a winter wonderland. It was very clear with a bright sun, but very cold with no wind. After an hour of wandering around, having fun in the woods, I found myself lost. I tried to follow my tracks, but I had goofed around so much I could not tell which direction I came from. I was lost. I picked a direction I thought was the correct way back, but after some time decided I was really, really lost. I was 6 or 7 years old at this time and just kept going. After a short time, I started to hear footsteps in the crusty snow about 30 yards or so in the thick woods. I thought it was my own steps being echoed back from the thick woods. When I stopped, the steps stopped. So I was not too concerned initially. After walking on further, I stopped and the steps continued for a few additional steps. This was strange as I tested this by running hard and stopping short. The steps again continued a few additional steps after my quick stop. Someone was over there following me. Who or whatever it was seemed to be on 2 feet, stopping when I stopped. Now you guys, this sounds familiar. I may have read it in the past. There's thousands of new people here. I'm going to read it again anyway. Or maybe it's just a similar experience. I was lost and now someone or something was following me. I began looking in that direction, but the forest was thick and mixed hardwood and enough pine and cedar to make visibility very limited, except when every now and then a lane would appear naturally through the forest, allowing a further view. As I looked down one of the occasional lanes, about 40 yards away, I saw a large and tall figure. Appeared to be 8 feet tall, or the tallest man I'd ever seen, in all brown. Crossed the lane and disappeared behind the thick cover. It looked like a large man in all brown coveralls or something. I thought maybe it was a farmer or hunter, so I yelled out that I was over here, that I was lost, and I knew they were over there. I got no reply. This somewhat worried me as my parents were filling our minds at that time with info about escaped convicts, etc., and to be careful. I kept walking a bit quicker now. I was getting tired, hungry. I was now sweating under my 1960s heavy winter clothes. It was still below freezing and I was eating snow and icicles to get some water into my mouth. I saw the figure cross the lane again, and I again yelled out with no answer. They seemed to be getting closer, and I was a bit worried and wondered why they were not answering me. I apologized to them for being on their land, but I was lost. I tried to explain. I was so tired after some more time walking, and things got quiet. I had to sit down. There was a weird pressure feeling in my ears, like a ringing of some type. Everything in the forest was like a vacuum, I can remember feeling. As I sat there, I was looking down a lane and could see about 80 yards or more. It was a less dense pine section of the woods. Then, as I rested looking down the lane, I see the brown figure about 30 yards away cross the lane in 2 steps and disappear behind a large tree. I called out saying I was lost and I needed help. No answer. Then I remember getting this thought in my head, and I believe I was getting spoken to through mind speak. I'm guessing. Because the thought in my head said, if you can just find something man-made, it will help you get back home. I swear to God this is true. I've never had a clearer thought that was actually spoken, and I heard with my mind's ears, I guess. At that point I turned around in my seated position on a log in the woods and began to look for anything familiar. About 30 yards away I see something not natural near a tree. I get up and go over there. It's a maple sap bucket. And that was the beginning of my finding my way home from being lost in the woods for an afternoon while being stalked by something about 10 feet tall and in all brown. That bucket led me to more buckets than a farmhouse than a road. I was escorted safely out by what I believe to be a Sasquatch in Ohio. One other quick thing, you had a guy from Arizona that was hiking the Superstition Mountains and had that horrible fear thing come over them like they were being watched and about to be attacked or something. I had the exact same thing happen to me in the exact same canyon, and I bet it was in the exact same spot. It is so remote and so rough and such an extreme hike to get to this far in spot that I know whatever it was is not human. I was separated from my other 2 hikers by a good ways at that point. I yelled to them to get up there. It was a strong feeling like I've never had before. Thanks for what you do, Steve/Arizona Cryptid. Okay, man, thanks for that. I don't think I read that one, because I do not recall hearing about the buckets on the trees, or the mind speak to tell you to find them. But that's interesting, right? So interesting. I can't wait to get the full report from the scientists, because I want to know more accurately what is out there that we should be more aware of in a possible threatening way besides our own governments. And I want to know, because Too many times these Sasquatch, Sabe people have been there for our better interest. Too many times, right? I wonder what it is out there that we are supposed to be absolutely aware of. And I have a feeling we're going to be told, and I'm going to tell you guys at the same time I find out exactly, right? One thing I do know for sure is a very serious threat comes from above. And I've been told that by very credible people. And also have shared some stories with me and asked me not to share them publicly. Whatever. It is what it is, but some of these stories absolutely line up with what numerous people around the globe have had happen to them. And that includes being taken, but returned. And that's a real shitty deal, man. I don't want to... it's going to be tough for me to acknowledge the fact that something can decide to overpower me and take me if they felt like it, and there's nothing I could do about it. That's a shitty thing to know for certain, right? That's a real shitty thing to know. Instead of just speculating and wondering and humming and hawing and not giving it too much attention. Then again, I'll bet I wonder how many people out there have had that same feeling about the Sasquatch, thinking, I'd rather just think it was on a t-shirt or a cartoon or a comic book. I don't want to know that this is really happening. Teach their own, you don't have to know. But it is going on. It is going on. There's nothing we can do to stop it from going on. But anyway, I gotta get going. It's still foggy out, so I have time to do some other things before the sun comes out and starts scorching our asses. But it has to get that hay dry before I can go get it and get that last load in before I hit the high seas. So, to all you people waiting for me to get back to you, which is numerous, I apologize. It's very, very difficult for me to do, alright? I got so much going on. I'm like a broken record, right? No time, so much going on, so tired, blah, 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 is what it is. But I'm still managing to get this shit done. So that's good. I'll be back when I get back. I don't know if I'll be able to do this before I go or not. Again, we'll see. Keep emailing it in.